Hello and welcome back, most illustrious members of the Detail. I hope everyone's having a great day. Today, we are going to go over which Pool 3 cards are worth it the most to choose as your freebie. You've probably already chosen one, but this can help you get an idea for next month's free card before we actually get to next month. I hope you enjoy! Just before we get into it, real quick, I'm D, also known as MTF Doom on the internet. We have a Discord link down below. It is a safe and wholesome environment to talk about more Marvel Snap stuff if you are so inclined. If you end up liking this video, a subscription goes a long way. When we hit 500, I'm doing a face reveal. Oh, the hype, the drama, the intrigue. I know. All right, so the big deal, right? You now get one free Pool 3 card per month. You'll also still open them on the track. Overall, I really like this change, just so we're clear. There's some divisiveness about this, but I'm a big fan. I like the fact that your tokens can now go towards Pool 4 and 5 cards, and you don't feel like an absolute goon for buying a Pool 4 card with your tokens like you used to. Okay, that all being said, they're not all created equally. So we're going to go... So S tier is stuff like Doom. Dr. Doom is S tier. He goes in a lot of decks. He's really good on his own. He's good with cards that you'll find in Pool 2. Basically, S stands for standalone. That's what the S stands for. They're cards that either make the deck archetype single... Like, this card alone makes the deck. You don't even need another game player. Or they're parts of lots of good decks, so you can just like feel pretty confident in picking them and not worry that like you're not going to get a lot of use out of them. A tier are parts of weaker decks or like good decks, but you're going to need multiple of them. So this would be like pick them up. So like we'll put like Death is a very good card, but with Death you need Wave. You basically need Wave, right? So these would be sort of like a combination of A tier. If you open one, you feel free to pick the other one as your freebie if it pops up. But in general, I wouldn't... If you just hit Pool 3 and Death is like the first card that pops up as your freebie, I probably wouldn't take it. That's kind of like what I'm getting at. You probably want to pick an S as your first freebie. Just getting into that. Below that, B tier is going to be cards that are... And some A's will be like... I don't know, Arrow's probably still an A, but maybe not an S. They'll just be like generic good stuff cards. Then we got B tier, which are like kind of mid cards or cards that need more than one thing. So if you need like sort of a string of things to go right, it'll be in B tier. C tier is going to be something more along the lines of like... not great cards, but like playable and fun to pick up. Like, you know, something like, I don't know, I might catch shit for this, but something like Debris. For the record, I love Debris. I really like playing decks that play Debris. I'm not against Debris. I really like her, but I probably wouldn't pick her over most other things. She was one of my last unlocks too, so I went a really long time without playing her. And then D tier is just stuff like, just don't buy it, even if it's unless it's the last shop refresh of the month. Like if you haven't picked your card yet and it gets down to the last day and you haven't seen any of these other cards because we had a shortened month of this system, by all means, I guess just pick one of these, because you're gonna, if you don't get to store your pick for next month, you get a new pick. So that's the only time you should pick one of these, is if it's the last shop refresh of the season and you don't get anything else you want. Okay. So, starting off, Adam Warlock, straight into D tier. Card is not good. Don't pick up Adam Warlock. We got Arrow. Arrow really goes along with Wave, I think, at this point. Arrow might even be, like, here as part of this. So, what you're going to want to do if you pick up Arrow is this not up to date? Element OP, QR... S There's no She-Hulk here. Okay, this isn't up to date. So She-Hulk is now pool 3. Pool 3, She-Hulk is probably an S tier pool 3. But Arrow is like an Arrow, Wave, and She-Hulk, who's right here. You can't see her. She's camouflaged. Those 3 go in a deck together. But Arrow recently got nerfed and it kind of doesn't just go in its own deck anymore. It doesn't go in every deck, certainly. It used to be all the way up here, and now it got nerfed all the way to down here. Okay, Agatha. Agatha, I would never, personally, I would never pick Agatha, but some people find this card so fun that she would be, like, in C tier, but I don't think she, I think she's just too bad. Don't pick her up. Arnhem is probably not an auto-include in every deck, but is a really nice tech card. Really very sneaky version of, like, Doom, but in a lot of ways it can be slightly worse. But not a bad pickup by any means, especially if you have a deck in mind that you'd really like to run Arnhem in, like my recent Arnhem Hammer. I just love that. I love that deck name so much. I'm so funny, y'all. I'm so funny sometimes. All right, Baron. Baron's not in any good decks right now. Baron is not a key part even in the decks that he's part of. Like, if you want to play the Ronin deck, you'd pick up Maximus as just a much better card. Beast. I have been really, really messing around with Beast recently. I don't actually know if it's B for Beast, honestly. I don't know if this card is good enough on its own or even in the shells that it's good enough in, but I have really been enjoying it. If you love this effect, probably right here. Black Bolt, not good. Black Cat, but not good. Black Panther, we got a lot of this going on. Black Panther's quite good with Zola. That's like the classic. Is Black Panther pool 3 now? I feel like this is bugging, but that's fine. Black Panther's quite a good card. Just dodges Shang on first on reveal, and then like can get Zola, all kinds of just cool stuff you could do with it. Strong card on its own. Gotcha card in a lot of decks. Good in the negative deck, which is negative's probably gonna go in B, just so we know. Right here. Negative, is a very pool 2 friendly deck. So like, while the negative deck that's only pool 2 isn't the most optimal, it's very playable. And so like, yeah, we're skipping ahead. Black Widow isn't that good. I play her a lot. She's actually not that good. She's like part of the Beast deck in a lot of ways. She's disruptive in a lot of ways, but like a 2/1 is a big downside. It's a big downside. We got Brood. Oh, no, Agatha, Agatha took control there and moved herself to C tier. All right, Brood. Brood fell off. It's weird because right now no one is playing Enchantress. Like, I have not seen an Enchantress in weeks, probably. Literally. So, like, the Patriot and Cerebro decks are both technically better right now because that was a big thing. Like, oh no, they can silence your Patriot or your Cerebro. But, like, no one's playing Enchantress. And so, like, those decks should be better, but they're just not because they're so straightforward. They're so fair. Your opponent kind of knows what you're doing. They're easy to interact with in other ways. One of my biggest highlights of all time is me donating a card to the Cerebro deck and just messing it up. I vipered over one of my cards and they just got wrecked. So the decks just play too fair and are interactable on too many other axes. So Brood fell off, but if any of that changes, Brood probably goes up to like B tier. But as it stands, it sucks because Brood's a cool card. Captain Marvel probably always going to be B tier. Captain Marvel's cool because she lets you make exactly one mistake. That's how I like to think about her. She lets you misevaluate a situation exactly once per game and can fix that mistake for you. Always a cool card to play with in a lot of ways, but not always the strongest card. Cerebro, kind of the same thing. This might be like Beast and Negative. I might be overvaluing it based on my personal experience. I really like Cerebro. I really like Cerebro too. It's one of my favorite decks, same with Negative. But it isn't as well positioned as it once was. I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if Cerebro was ever good. But Cerebro makes like a comeback if you end up getting like Valkyrie, right? Like you can, and Bast, I think as well. You can start doing other cool stuff with it, but overall, right now, kind of playing too fair. Colleen Wing, I think same thing. With the Swarm discard, you might need Dracula, you might need Hellcat. Like there's a number of other things you might want for this deck, but overall, like not a bad piece of the deck itself. Crossbones, probably just open it. It's too fair. It's just a stat stick, and you have to be ahead on board to deploy it. Wouldn't really bother. I guess we could probably just deploy, like, Drax is there, too. Giganto's probably right there. Where's the other stat sticks that you should just open? Maybe that might be it for right now. Getting ahead of myself. Okay. Let's jump around, because we haven't had an... I feel like the negativity seeping in. Magneto's an S. If you see Magneto, just grab him. Just grab Magneto, and he'll grab 3s and 4s. It's really good. Magneto is sick. You can disrupt your opponent with him. He's good, again, good in a lot of decks, especially starting off, where you don't have, like, a bunch of key pieces for more intricate plans, and you just are kind of playing, like, a good stuff deck. Magneto's like a really good end to a good stuff deck, right? You just curve, like, your Lizard into, like, even Bishop. Bishop's fine. There's maybe, is Deathlock a 3? Yeah, Deathlock. Oh, is Polaris on here? How off is this? Okay, Polaris is the other. Like, I think Polaris is, like, criminally underplayed for how good she is. But you just, like, curve out good stuff and win the game because your opponent, like, tries to contest the lane, and you're like, yeah, Magneto, why don't you come over here and contest this lane, actually. Contest these right now. We got some... Alright, back to the negativity. Crystal's terrible. Don't pick up Crystal under any circumstances except the one that I've already outlined. Nick Fury, same thing. It's just not good. Don't play Nick Fury. What else we got down there? Oh, Quinjet just got nerfed, so I would actually call this, like, B tier now. The fact that it can't reduce cost to 0, which was the primary use of Quinjet, even outside of the degenerate Thanos deck. The best use of Quinjet to me was in a deck that wanted to play, like, Hood. So you got the Demon, and then, like, a couple other ones, like a Titania, and then, have those one cost in your hand, then Moon Girl, and then you had Quinjet reducing half your hand down to 0, and then the other half was 1s. And turn 6, you could, like, just absolutely go off, my liege, with, like, 25 power plays. You can't do that anymore, and I think that was the best use of Quinjet, so it's probably just not as good anymore. The types of decks that you will end up playing it in, the sort of more fair Moon Girl decks that are, like, Moon Girl Dino stuff, it doesn't provide enough of a discount, I don't think. Alright, Dagger. The move deck itself is pretty bad. We covered this fairly recently, that the kind of best use of the move deck is not as a move deck, it's as, like, a sneaky move deck. And Dagger gives away the game that you're trying to do move stuff, while simultaneously not being very good. Same with Human Torch. So those are all just going to get put, like, just open them. If you're really, really committed to trying to play the move deck, I think Dagger might be a little better than Torch because of the Killmonger. Like, one costs are so tough to sell me on. There's always a chance that someone's going to Killmonger and just ruin your day. And so, it's really tough to, like, to commit to a big Human Torch, especially because you can't armor it, because it's going to keep moving out of the armor lane. Yeah, I don't know. Daredevil, basically up here. You can throw him in a lot of decks that you just want info, that you just want, like, to hit an opponent with a Gamora on 5. You could do the Professor X thing, like, very conducive to pool 2 decks, which is why I've put him probably in S tier. but also just gets better. Like, the more options you have from here, the better Daredevil gets. But is like very good as a generalized pickup in the early part of Pool 3. I'd say he's probably less fun than like some of the other cards. Like, the thing is, if I had the choice between Beast and Daredevil myself, I might pick Beast because I find this card so much more fun. But Daredevil is very no nonsense good. Just very like straightforward. You're going to play him a lot. You're going to play him in a lot of decks, and he's probably going to be good forever because having info on turn 5. I dream of the day I play Daredevil, my opponent tries to Kang, and I Cosmo them and just waste their turn 5 playing out a 5-0. I dream of that day. If you have a clip of that, send it in so I can feature it on the show. Deadpool, I don't know, maybe around here. He is really good in the Nimrod deck if you're playing like a Nimrod or Null, but those are like technically pool. I think Null might be 4 now. Nimrod's technically going to be pool 5, but he's also the card you very likely have if you're viewing this video because he was the season pass card. So it's like a weird spot where you need Deadpool, like you need other stuff for Deadpool to be good, but you probably have that other stuff if you're watching this video right now as it releases. In the future, in order to make this content evergreen, I'm calling Deadpool like B tier. Destroyer, kind of the same thing. Destroyer's maybe more conducive because Destroyer's really good with Cosmo, Armor, and Spectrum, and all 3 of those are pool 2 cards or before. I don't know what pool 1 and 2 like. I'm not gonna remember the differences. I'm sorry, and I'm absolutely not sorry. Destroyer goes in the Armor, Cosmo, Spectrum list. So because of that, he's pretty conducive. But the deck itself isn't great in a lot of ways. So maybe here. Destroyer, just by virtue of being the one card you kind of need to make it work, alongside, and you know, as a backup plan, maybe a Dracula, right? Yeah, see how that works? I'd say both of these are equally like conducive to early game decks. Dracula might even be better. Dracula might be there. But they have the same positives and minuses, which is that like they're good with cards you already have. The decks themselves are fine to good, and depending on which you like more, they might also be very fun to play. And I honestly like the thrill of the Dracula roulette gets me every time. When my opponent has 5 cards in hand and a Dracula on board and they hit the Infinite, there's nothing more rage-inducing. But having it happen in reverse is really fucking fun. It's really fun. Dr. Octavius Puss. Probably C tier. I don't think he's very good. I wish he was. He can be really disruptive against certain decks. If you are playing Galactus and you want to do the empty your opponent's hand thing before you Galactus, fine. I have a really sick Ock variant, so I wish this card was better, but it just isn't. It just isn't. I might pick it up because it is really fun. Again, really, really fun, or it would be down here, but just, I don't know. Not very good. Electro is a key player in a lot of decks that do pretty well. And again, can be very conducive to a pool 2 deck. I'd say Electro might be here because I really do think you want like Doom, because you already have Odin, and in general, like the Electro deck is doing something like Electro, maybe into Sandman, maybe not, but then Doom and then Odin. So you've added like just so much power across all the lanes in a way that you've locked your opponent out of doing. But Electro is a key player in a lot of like ramp. Ramp just means having more resources than your opponent on any given turn, is always kind of also a fun strategy in a big way. So this card's always going to probably see play and is always going to be kind of fun to play with. So yeah, Electro's, I don't know. Electro's somewhere up here. The borders are porous between these, just so we're clear. The borders are very porous. The qualia and the borders, and I'm just throwing out words now. Falcon, probably down here. Might even be lower. Might be overvaluing him, because I'm doing the Falcon Beast thing right now. But incredibly fun card to play with in that shell. So, you know, same with Debris, right? It's going to be in C for that reason. Just fun to play with. A lot of these are fun to play with. That's kind of what C tier has become, hasn't it? Okay. You know what? Let's just throw that in there while we got it. Viper is not the best card you could pick up, but she is definitely a C tier card. It's really fun to go Hood into Viper, and it's things that are just fun. I'm doing an Italian hand. Things that just make fun. Gambit, kind of the worst discard card. I don't know. People love this Gambit. You go like Wong Mystique Gambit, and like you know, on turn 6 you play Gambit and you nuke your whole opponent's board. You've blown up like 12 things or whatever. But it's like, I don't know. Does that happen that often? Does it really ever go off? And do you really ever win if you don't? Like, you could like, oh no! Okay, it's saved. All right. I might do a cut here because I accidentally clicked back and then clicked forward. As I was saying, Gambit, do you ever really win even if you get the combo to go off? I don't know. Sometimes, like, we're going to do Hazmat pretty soon because she's right here. And I'm probably going to say the same thing, but I've had Hazmat work more often than I've had Gambit work, so. Alright, Ghost Rider, I think, is one of the better discard pieces, but I don't know how high that puts it anyway. Probably among the Colleen Wing goings-on. Ghost Rider, you generally don't play with Colleen. You play more with Lady Sif, who I believe is pool 2. Yeah, Lady Sif's pool 2. So, like, maybe he's even here because Sif into Ghost Rider is just easy. Like, you already have Sif. Whereas Colleen, I don't know. You need more to go right to play a Colleen deck, I think. Goose, again, I put with Polaris criminally underplayed as far as I'm concerned. If you build around it, or if you're just against the right deck, you can really shut a deck down. Maybe it's here. Goose is a sick tech card. Goose, hot take, Goose should be pool 2. Goose should be like an evergreen tech card that everyone has access to, because I think more people should play Goose. Invisible Woman, weirdly good right now, again, because I haven't seen Enchantress, like, at all, and I haven't seen Cosmo that often. I think people are getting kind of lazy about tech cards. It's tough to even include tech cards because the decks are so good that if the tech card you play doesn't hit them, it puts you too far behind. And, like, right now, Cosmo can kind of help the Shuri deck, which is, like, one of the best decks in the format. So it can be a really tough sell. But because of that, Invisible Woman is weirdly good. She's probably more like a C card, but right this exact moment, March of 2023, she's probably better than she has been in general. Green Goblin. Green Goblin is... honestly, he's not great. It's weird. He just goes in a lot of decks. There's not, like, filling one slot on an opponent's side of the board with a -3 is just going to be good in, like, quite a few situations. Like, I actually think he kind of gets worse as you get more cards into pool 3, but, like, as an early, like, again, sort of going off like, oh, these are all cards that are, like, good in a lot of situations and don't require much else to go right. Goblin can be that, and then, like, kind of gets worse. Like, he's just not, he's not as good as, like, some of the other things you're gonna be doing when you get into pool 3. So he's in this weird spot, but I really like him. I wish I had gotten him earlier. He's one of my last unlocks. I think I'm 5 cards from pool 3 complete, and I just got him, and I've been having a ton of fun with him, but yeah, not that great. A key player in Hazmat, though, and Debris. You need kind of all of these to go right. Where's Luke? Where's Lucius Cage? Luke Cage isn't here either. Luke Cage is kind of in this... we'll say B. If you get Luke or Hazmat, you can pick up the other one pretty safely. The deck isn't great. The deck is probably probably here, but I think Luke really is the B tier, and Hazmat and Debris are really the C tier. This Luke's just good, like, you know, is good for a lot of reasons. Luke Cage is just a good card, for a lot of reasons. Hela, I have had no success with, but I get beaten by all the time, so I'm gonna put her in B tier. I think like I said, I think the discard decks struggle to get off the ground in a big way, but that, like, Hela is one of the better cards you could be playing in that deck, especially if you are lucky. Hellcow is probably just a worse version. Like, it's like not the best card to play in a discard deck, but like it's kind of a key player as well. Again, like, if you're watching this now, there's a decent chance you have MODOK, which is like, what's the combo? Oh, it's Invisible Woman, then at some point MODOK, and then Hela. So you know you haven't discarded Hela to MODOK, and then on turn 6 you reveal MODOK discards everything, Hela reanimates everything, and whatever you had in your hand you get. That's cool. I'm a big fan of that. Outside of that, I don't know. Not great. We got regular Thor as opposed to Guy Thor. Regular Thor, see, we're gonna, like, if you want to do some cool stuff with the negative deck, she could be a little higher. If you have Dude Thor, oh, he is on this list, and Lockjaw, I'd put them, these two are kind of a bundle. Like, I wouldn't grab one. I'd grab Thor maybe without Lockjaw, but I probably wouldn't pick up Lockjaw unless I had Thor, and I probably wouldn't pick up regular Thor unless I had maybe both of those first. A 5/8 that fetches you all your 0 costs just isn't, it's not that impressive unless you're doing something quite busted with it. Juggernaut gives us a second row of A tier. Just, again, quite underutilized card for what it is. Quite underutilized. Not as good as Polaris, I think. Personal preference. I like Polaris because I like reacting rather than trying to mind read. I'm very bad at it. But Juggernaut should see more play than he does. And again, like, can see a lot of... There's a lot of scenarios where Juggernaut does what you want him to do. Kingpin, I don't know. If you find this fun, by all means, pick him up. But, like, this deck isn't very good. Like, he's way too telegraphed. He's way too easy to play around. And, yeah, not very good. Leader has gotten nerfed into the ground. Maybe C tier. But honestly, D tier. Just open Leader now. Leader used to be such a menace. It's better this way than it was, but I just want you to know Leader was one of my first buys because I was so sick of losing to Leader that I was like, I'm just playing Leader, and he was abysmal to play with and against, and I'm glad he's nerfed, but does that feel like a wasted 1,000 tokens? I'll tell ye what. Magic, probably not good enough to be B tier, but probably fun enough to be C tier. There's not a deck that can take such huge advantage. She-Hulk isn't here. By the way, She-Hulk is up here, just even after the nerf. Magic Moon Girl She-Hulk is really fun, but I don't think it's the best thing you can be doing. Magic is great with Mr. Negative, both because of her stat line. Being inverted is really good, and because it gives you an extra draw after you negative. So if you have one, maybe get the other, but in general, this effect at baseline isn't that good. Like, it helps your opponent basically just as much as it helps you, and it opens you up to being Scarlet Witched, which is, like, always bad news. Maximus has kind of fallen off. I can't remember the last time I saw a Maximus. He's only really good on turn 6, so really he's a 3/7, but really he's like half of your turn 6 play. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he's fallen off specifically, but I haven't been playing him either, so there's something going on. I still think he's a perfectly fine pickup. Just keep in mind, if you're new to playing him, you really want to play him either into a lane that you've already Cosmoed or on turn 6, but not really otherwise. Miles Morales is probably B tier. Again, if you have like Polaris, can't be Magneto, but if you have Polaris or Juggernaut, you might even bump this up to A. But even just on his own, like with Nightcrawler, which everyone has, perfectly fine card. 1/5. 1/5 is pretty good stat line. Speaking of which, Titania is not here. Is that accurate? Yeah, Titania is not here. Another 1/5. That's quite good. Titania is quite good. Probably an A tier. Again, same as Maximus. Don't play her before turn 6. There's a learning curve to playing Titania, but if you engage with that learning curve, A tier. Mojo, I want to put in S tier, so I will. That's not accurate. Mojo isn't this good, but in my heart, Mojo is an S tier, and it's my channel, so that's where I'm putting him. Moon Knight, just open. Wish Moon Knight was better, kind of like Black Bolt. I wish the discard deck was better. It's what I played. And Magic for a long time was 8 Rakdos, I called it, because it was red-black. Wish that strategy worked. Although that strategy is kind of also abysmal to play against, so maybe it's for the best that these cards aren't that good. Mysterio, probably B tier. It's never really that hard to guess which Mysterio is the real one, but the fact that you have Bishop as a pool 2 card, and it's very good with Bishop, and Bishop himself is quite strong, and you have Carnage and Deathlock and like other ways of getting rid of the clones. Mysterio's fine. Mysterio's even quite good. I'm a big fan of Mysterio. Mystique's a weird one because, I mean, we're saying we're not seeing Enchantress. Mystique goes with a lot of other cards, right? Being a copy of a Dino or a Ronin or a Mojo, or the best ones are Cerebro and Patriot. Let's just put Patriot up in the B tier while we're here. Are all just good uses of Mystique. She's in this weird spot where she's never good on her own, and she is good with a lot of other cards, so she's probably just an A tier. Omega Red, I have not played with at all, but like, I don't know. People seem to be hot on this card, and I have not played with him at all, but I can't in good conscience put him in D tier because, like, I don't know, it's a cool effect, it's fun, it seems like it would be fun to play with, and everyone's hot on him, so. Red Skull is, unfortunately, probably S tier right now. He just got buffed. Can you believe, that card got buffed. Even if you don't have Shuri, Red Skull is fine as a mid-range threat. If you have Shuri, Red Skull is unbeatable. It's really abysmal. And in general, I think this effect is just like, he's a 5/13 now, not a 5/15, but he only gives your opponents +1 power. Just good. It's just good. Things that are just good. Psylocke, probably just, I really like Psylocke. She's probably just open on track. Quake, just open on track. Rescue fell off like Maximus fell off, but even harder. Probably just open on track. Taskmaster, if you have Shuri is an S. If you have Shuri and Red Skull is an S. Otherwise, it's probably an A. Even without Shuri, being able to go Red Skull on 5, Taskmaster on 6, plus Titania or another, like, you know, the demon from Hood, who is S tier, as far as I'm concerned. It's just a lot of power to output on turn 6. It just is. Rock Slide. Even if you have Darkhawk, probably just open Rock Slide. I think the best use of Darkhawk is actually to do Korg with Beast and Falcon. It's not even really to try to Rock Slide them. It's just to Korg them 3 times instead. Rogue. Fucking open on the track. It's like, Rogue should be such a gotcha card, but like all the ongoings that actually do anything are either bad, like Red Skull, or they're unilateral, so it's like you can steal their armor, so the armor now has no ongoing ability, but it doesn't matter because the whole lane is still armored. Like, yeah, Rogue's in a really tough spot. Ronin, just not great. Just open Ronin. Sarah is probably always going to be good, but gets better the more of a collection that you have. So as a first card, I might not say she's S tier, but she's like gonna be good forever and gets better over time. I think like the more options you have, the better off Sarah is. So like A tier, maybe not S. Spider-Man, I don't get Spider-Man. I've played with him. You know, you can do some gotcha stuff with like Avengers Compound, playing him on 4, so you lock your opponent out of Compound on 5. Playing him, you only ever play him on 5 to lock your opponent out of a lane on 6. As a, what's essentially a 5/3, right? Unless you have a 1-drop, again, like Demon from Hood, to go with him. He's not great, but you can get quite tricksy with him. I think he's not as good as some other stuff you could be doing. Typhoid Mary, even if you have Lucius Cage, Typhoid Mary is just not that good. I've been playing around with her. I don't know. The 410's just not. Don't do it. Wasp is part of this deck, the Lockjaw Thor deck. Lockjaw Dude Thor and regular Thor, but is kind of the worst piece of it. So if you have these two, she's much better. And if not, she's like much worse. She's also sees some play in the Patriot deck because she has no text. So technically is a good Patriot card, but overall, really you need these. You need at least Lockjaw. Again, if you happen to random into Lockjaw before you hit like open or get the chance of buying Thor, maybe Wasp is the pickup, but we're getting into the weeds on that, and I'm not a huge fan of Wasp. Ultron, I think, is obviously good in the Patriot deck, but I think is probably better than Patriot himself, because Ultron can work as like a Heimdall. We talked about how Heimdall is kind of best, not really in a dedicated move deck, but in a mid-range deck that wants to sneak in power in ways that your opponent isn't thinking about. Ultron, I think, really, at least until you get Patriot and Mystique, is that card. You just want to like play Ultron in a mid-range shell that can sneak extra little 1/1s into like a bunch of different locations that your opponent isn't really thinking about. And then if you have Patriot Mystique, he gets like pretty good. Having 5 power Ultron duders is like quite good. But until that point, he's still actually fine. And probably should see more play in just mid-range shells. Zero. Zero's like a playmaker. I like Zero a lot. If you're bad with Titania, play Zero. If you have Maximus and you want to play him before turn 6, play Zero. If you don't want your Destroyer to go off or your Red Skull, play Zero. Great card. Really good card. Sees enough play, but could probably see more. Love Zero. Yellow Jacket is just Wasp in a lot of ways, but worse because it has text and reduces your power. I see some people play Yellow Jacket in the Lockjaw list. If you are really trying to go all in on the Lockjaw regular Thor, Dude Thor thing going on, maybe, but I would just open it. Wong, Venom, I guess, because I grabbed the wrong card, is like B. You already, like, Venom is weirdly kind of worse than the other destroy effects you have going on, except in a very specific setup of, like, again, kind of like Titania or Red Skull. He almost works as like an enchantress for the destroy, like a self enchantress for the destroy decks, as silly as that sounds. But outside of that, Carnage is better in a lot of situations. Not all situations, but a lot of situations if you need something destroyed. And then Wongers is only in B tier because he's fun. He's very easy to interact with. We said we don't see Enchantress very often, which is true. Cosmo is still like somewhat prevalent. And the biggest thing, I was hot on Wong. I like Wong over Odin in a lot of ways, but something that was pointed out to me, Jeff Hoogland has a really good video on this, is that, like, you basically, like, your opponent knows if they're gonna lose to Wong. Like, your opponent can figure out whether or not they can beat that Wong that you just played. And so, like, even if it's gonna win you the game, it's probably only gonna win you 1 cube, because your opponent's just gonna be like, yeah, they have a Wong and I don't have Cosmo, so I'm just gonna retreat now. So, like, again, a lot of fun to do the Wong Mystique thing, but, like, it probably doesn't win you as many cubes as it needs to. But I can't in good conscience put it below a B tier. All right, that is most of Pool 3. If you have any additional questions, because a lot of this really is based on, like, proximity to your collection, right? Like, well, you know, these are, like, sort of general utility good stuff, but, like, you know, you might be, like, between a couple of these and being like, well, here's what I have. What should I pick? If that comes up, by all means, join the Discord and ask there. We love talking through this type of stuff. As a community, it's a ton of fun for all of us. I have been your host, D, also known as MTF Doom. If you find my content elucidating, enlightening, or enriching, do the stuff. Do the stuff that I asked. Join the Discord. It's awesome. Subscribe to the channel. It's great. We're a lot of fun to hang out with, I promise. I hope that you have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.